In this Rilma tutorial, I'm going to give you a very basic overview of what the automation campaign mode is about. This tutorial serves as pure orientation. This assumes that you already are familiar with creating cars in automation and engines on automation that are competitive. So let's get into it and let's make it brief. It has chosen a perfect name for this tutorial, and I am going to start in Gazmir. Gazmir is the largest country with the most options in terms of demographics, and especially has the largest demographics, so you will find buyers more easily. There is absolutely no shame in starting to get used to the automation campaign on a casual or easy difficulty. Trust me, if you're new here, even easy or casual will feel pretty terrifying. And with that, we start the campaign. Once you're starting your campaign, you are basically railroaded into making a new model, and that is the thing to do at the start. But in order for me to now give you the total overview, we are going to just click this one away and take a look at what we see. Campaign play is split up into two different sections. The section that you see here with all its tabs at the bottom, and the section that you do not see, which is the car projects. In this section that you see here, you have everything that is related to your company. The main hub is where you're passing time, and you have a nice overview of your projects, currently of course empty. We only see our 2 factories. The headquarters manager lets you upgrade your HQ. In the car projects, the engine projects, and the factory manager, you see what you have in terms of cars, engines, and factories. In the company finances, you get all kinds of data for your revenue and expenses, as well as your current loans. The markets tab does let you do some research into where the demographics are in terms of budgets and how many you're selling to and all that good stuff. The marketing screen is to make your awareness go up for different demographics in different regions, where the awareness number basically corresponds to how many cars you will be able to sell to that demographic if it is affordable and desirable. Then we have the research and development screen, where you invest money into getting techs earlier and be able to use technology at a higher quality level without having to pay for that. The regulations screen tells you what hurdles are coming your way in terms of emissions, safety, and capacity taxes, as well as the leaded fuel ban. So, to repeat, in the overworld, what you are currently seeing here, you are managing your company and you have large-scale management of your various projects for engines, cars, and factories. And now let's get to the layer that the game wanted to railroad us into as the first thing starting the campaign. And that is making a new car project. The first screen that comes up is the question which demographic you want to mainly target. Just keep in mind that you don't choose which demographic to sell to. The demographics decide which cars of yours they like or not. So this, whatever you pick, is purely a reference point, but you should aim at a demographic which has enough volume and enough budget for their cars that allows you, as a small manufacturer, to have decent margins. You want it to be a somewhat larger demographic, so don't pick anything that is red here, but also you might be interested in the budget of each demographic. Just click the budgets here and then you will see that most demographics have really low budgets. You should not be targeting those. For a small-scale production out of a small factory, I would recommend to not go for any demographic with a budget of less than 20,000 at the start of the game. A safe bet would be the premium. Let's pick this one, and because I assume at this point that you know how to build cars to a demographic that are desirable and affordable, I will just assume that you have built me a car. And a beautiful car you have built. On the final markets screen of the car designer, after designing your model, your engine family, your engine variant, and your first trim, you get to the Markets tab, which is quite a useful tool in this. You don't set anything here, but you get a glimpse at where your car actually is competitive. That is assuming a certain price point that you can choose yourself, and it is assuming that you are selling that car as is, as designed, into the current market. Assuming that we are done with everything and you are happy with your build, we are going to complete this design and we arrive at the project management. You remember the overworld? Now we are in the underworld, the technical underbelly of Automation's campaign, where you design your cars, you set up engineering, you set up engine engineering, you set up your engine factories, you set up your car factories, you forecast the sales and then determine prices as well, and sign off your project at last. The important point here to consider for the overall flow of the game is that normally you manage your company at the top, and then once you are making a car project, everything else that is needed to go from design all the way through production of both car and engine are all treated in this flow. Of course, there are exceptions and there are shortcuts to change various things for more advanced users, but this is the gist of it. In campaign, it is always advisable to not just, or well, almost always advisable to not just make one trim, but rather several that are catering to different demographics. After finishing your first trim of your new model, it is advisable to clone that trim and then tailor it to the alternative demographic that hopefully is not too close to the one that you're already covering. So, you are happy with this one? Let's clone it. And again, I'm going to assume that you have built me a fantastic alternative car. Once you're done setting that one up, you will see that you have two trims sitting on the final markets page. And again, you don't make any decisions here, this is just for orientation. Make sure that there is not too much overlap between these, but also not zero overlap. Once you're happy, we go back to the project management. Now, what you have done so far is design your first model, design two trims, and the engine family, as well as the engine variants that go into that. Now comes the next super important step, and that is how we bring these designs to the market. For that, we need to engineer them. So let's go one step further to car engineering. And here we make one very important check, and that is how long is it going to take? Your first project is always reduced by 36 months. And in most cases, your target should be to bring this car to market within a year. Well, 36 months, last time I checked, was not a year. By changing the sliders down here, you can have a very large effect on the engineering time. And in a small factory, the one that you're starting with, generally, tooling is a slider that can be lowered a decent amount without making production too much worse, but it saves a massive amount of time. This is still not enough, and there's one main culprit. Always make sure that these are not having any drastic outliers, like safety in this instance. This looks like there was an option that was picked that is just way too hard to engineer at the moment. So let's address this. There is a very handy tool that you should know about, that is the project map. The project map basically covers everything that you can access down here in this timeline. Everything from car design to engines to your car factories and forecasting and so on. And you can bring it up by either clicking here or pressing by default period. Let's do that, and you see where we are at currently highlighted, and you can just click where you want to go, for instance, to change the safety package in your trim. So let's click there and take a look what happened. We go to the safety tab and we see you were a little too optimistic in your choice of safety package. This thing is using all your tech pool to unlock it, and then you're still trying to engineer it to 4 quality. That takes a long time. So, quick fix, safety, 40s package, 2 down in quality, and now press your period button again and apply the same thing to your other trim. So once you have your engineering times under control, don't forget that you can learn more about these sliders and settings in general by pressing the little question mark in each of the title bars here to learn a bit more about what these things are doing. Next step is to set up the engine engineering, which already looks really good, but that means that with your car engineering being at 6 months, you can probably make this a little longer to match this number. How about we make the engine more reliable? And there we see the time creep up, and we do want to stay somewhere there. Yes, that is looking good. Now they are matching, and we have a more reliable engine. Now we have completed the engineering setup for both car and engine. The next step is to set up the factories. For this, we forward to the engine factories and go into our only sitting factory that we have here. You can build new ones and outsource engines as well, but in this easy campaign setup, you already start with a small factory. Your engine has already been put into this if your factory was chosen on that start screen, but even if it isn't, you will need to press this button here to get into the factory management. Take note that it starts you out on page 3 already, because this is an existing factory, to see where it is and what size plot it is built on, and what the different stats are, and what add-ons it has, what size class it has. Check out the other tabs. So back to tab 3 we go. We have only made one single engine variant out of our engine family. That one is selected to be produced in this factory. Again, if you want to learn more about the various settings, you can check out the little question marks up here. One general pitfall for some people starting with 2 large factories in countries that do not have a lot of qualified staff, keep an eye on the hiring months that are displayed here. If we up the quality and lower the pay, it will take a long time for you to find people that actually want to work for you. However, increasing the quality and the wages will also increase the general build quality that you can expect from your cars. And now let's go to the final page where we sign this off. There's a lot of information here and 3 more important settings. The general automation level of the factory, the tooling quality, and the quality assurance threshold, which is this vertical line here. These Gaussian distributions you see up here are the build qualities coming out of your factory. And this threshold cuts off the low quality tail of that distribution. If you slide it all the way up, then you will experience massive slowdowns because of it. But if you slide it all the way down, you will have terrible shoddy build quality and a high recall chance, which could trigger negative events. For now, the default factory setup should work just fine. That means that we now have set up the factory to produce the engine that goes into our new car. The next step is to do the same with the car factory. So we arrive at the car factories, we have our factory sitting here, and it says it is already tooled for our 2 new trims. So let's take a quick look. It has both trims in the list in the current facelift of it, and it is showing that we have 1 production flag, which is reducing the efficiency of production because we have manually created aluminium panels. Production methods do play a large role in how much output your factories can have. The output that you can expect from the factory you see listed here, as in items per month at core shifts. Core shifts you set down here, and the maximum shifts over there. So it looks like we can produce about 40 cars with 0.5 shifts, That means at 2 shifts, 160 cars. The production cost of making one of these cars is reasonably low in this case, below 10k. So let's go over to the final panel here, and we see that we are going to produce both of these cars, and compared to the target demographics that you have chosen, you see how much margin you potentially have compared to the budget of that demographic. On average, that is. If this is green, that is great. If it's slim and green, the outer circle, then that is potentially hazardous. You should have healthy margins as you start out. We're happy with this. All right, let's just click to complete the design of that factory, and we are now done. What we have done is to design the car, design the engine, put the engine and the car through engineering, set up the factories. Now we go to the forecasting tool and see that we can set prices. Prices are set up here. And one thing that you want to keep an eye on is this graph over in the middle here. And if the green line is all the way at the top, that means that you have way more demand than you can produce. While if it is all the way at the bottom here at 0.5 shifts, that means you probably are going to struggle to find enough customers. You can set your sales price by determining your margin for the price that you get from the dealers. What automation does is that you, the company, sells the cars you produce directly to the dealers for a fixed value. Then the dealers put a margin on top, their margin on top, depending on how much demand there is, how prestigious your cars are, and all of that. They do all this stuff for you. So the only thing relevant for you is the margin per car, and you can rely on that every sale of that car gives you exactly this amount of extra money. A very healthy margin to start out with would be 100%, of course. We calculate the forecast, and that says that we are still way underproducing. There are 2 solutions to this problem. One is higher prices. The other one is expanding production capacity. Let me quickly illustrate both, because we already are experts at setting these things up. Now, let's start with expanding production capacity of the car factory. We just go in here, building and tooling construction, and we choose a level 2 small factory. That is going to cost you some more, and it is going to take more time to construct, 4 months instead of the retooling, which only took 1. Nothing else is going to have to change over here, but you're probably going to see that we are going to make even more margin, because the larger volume production means that it becomes more efficient to produce. One thing to keep an eye on during setting up an expanded production of cars is if the engine factories can keep pace. On the final page of your car factory, you see the load balancing graph between engine shifts and car shifts. If the blue line is below the yellow line, you are fine, nothing to worry about. Let's return to the forecast and see if that changed anything. Yes, it did. We are now seeing that the green line actually deviates from the maximum. Let's do the rest by increasing to insane levels of the margins, as the drop-off in number of buyers will be quite strong as you climb in price. Now that it has recalculated, you see that this is looking way more in the middle, which is within the planned number of shifts that we had in mind. Let's use this as something that we deem properly set up, and continue to the final overview page. One graph that you really want to keep an eye on is the pre-production graph. Do all of these align? Do they all finish when you think they should finish? We set up the engineering projects to both take 6 months, and we see that the factory in a retooling time or rebuilding time and the hiring of staff for both of these factories is actually within those 6 months, which is great news. And now we can press the complete design button, and we are led to the sign-off screen, which also can be accessed directly from the company layer, of course. This sign-off screen is what finally gives your engineers the order to start working on this, and your factories the order to start implementing the changes that you have planned, all with the timings that you have set out. Also, what you see here is that you have a total project cost, including factories, including engineering, including everything, that is, in this case, 19.2 million, and it gives you the option, if you have a credit score that is not F, to take out a loan. You can determine how much of the costs are supposed to be covered. They are going to be paid out as they occur. So if you have monthly building costs, the loan will automatically cover those costs if you have chosen 100% coverage. The payback time starts once your project is complete, which means after 6 months. So your first repay or loan payment of, in this case, 353k is going to happen on month 7 in this case. Let's assume you need that loan and you want it to run for 80 months, and we sign off the project and agree. Now you are taken back to the company layer. And when we go to the main hub, you will see that you now have your project in there, engineering project, and a factory shutdown for retooling of your car and engine factory. Your car and engine factory are down here, your engine projects in the middle, your car projects on top. There's one last thing we should do before hitting the play button, and that is to set up some quick marketing. After all, you want your customers to know that you exist. Otherwise, they will have a hard time buying your cars. The way this works is that you market towards certain stats. Your marketing campaign are, for example, about the sportiness of your cars. That naturally would appeal to these sorts of buyers in these demographics. The higher your marketing level for a given stat, the higher the costs. Just keep in mind that you can only select a limited amount of branches of marketing depending on how large your HQ is. Considering that we are going into the premium markets and we only have 2 slots available, but also 2 countries to sell to, I think we are going to just assign level 4 marketing campaign to both these 2 countries, Gazmir and Helvetia in this case. You see the total cost over here. The cost penalty is 0 in this case. It has no additional cost. It costs 100%. And the efficacy of those campaigns is going to be 100% as well. These numbers mean current awareness, 5%. So if you are sitting at 5%, that means 5% of the market knows about you. While the lower number is the effect of your marketing and the prognosticated change per year. So in a year's time, this value will be at around 8%, or if you calculate it, 60% higher, more people knowing about your company. And with that, I think we are ready to pass time. There are 2 modes for this, either month by month or in bulk. And because we don't expect anything to happen until the release, we just click the 7th month, which is the time where we should see that our car and engine have come out of engineering and gone into production. And now the campaign has come to life. You see the monthly expenses and revenues. And if we tick a month, all that factory costs and loans should be gone away, and you will see the natural flow of things. We are making a healthy profit. We have pre-orders that we need to fill. And by hovering over the various stats here, you will get loads of information about what is going on. Keep an eye on what your expenses are and where your revenues are coming from. And what you can also do and should know about is that this list of your cars and their desirability numbers and affordability numbers depend on which countries you select. And I think this shall serve as a very basic overview over what awaits you in campaign. From here, what you would be expected to do is to continue selling your car, tweaking prices, making facelifts of your car in due time, not right away maybe, but maybe 2 or 3 years down the line to refresh its stats and adopt new technology. Do some R&D in order to get the stuff that you want to have in your cars a little earlier and with better quality. Watch over your marketing, and then eventually make another model or 2, or maybe even 3. The number of models and engines you can make depends on your company level. That is the amount of engineering teams you have available. You can of course have more models than this, but you only ever have this amount of engineering teams you see up here for that level. Currently, we are sitting at level 2, so we can only make 1 car and 1 engine at a time. And that should be it. I hope this gives you a general overview of what is happening in campaign and how to navigate the basics.